Should we pick up where
Yes,
we
I
left off?
think so. Yeah, it's gonna be
Okay.
better.
So, just a little bit about myself. I'm Claudia. I worked in the fashion industry for 15 years. I started my career in fashion design school in New York, and then slowly worked in all avenues of the fashion industry. So I've done design, styling, ad campaigns, wholesale, presenting collections to, a lot of retail stores. And then my most recent position was as a buyer. So I attended Fashion Week and actually did all the hand selection for all the designers, the garments, and sort of decided what was going to be sold in the stores that I was buying for. And now I actually run my own vintage clothing website. I sell vintage clothing from the 20s to like as current as Y2K. And I also do a little bit of styling, both for like magazines, like ad campaigns, and in addition to like one-on-one. So working with like a small group of like clients to kind of help them build a more like sustainable wardrobe for, a lot of them come to me not really knowing where to start. So I work one-on-one and kind of let people know where they can get their start on that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know you were starting to do that. Yeah, that's something that I feel a lot of people don't know where to start. Like they're
Yes.
like, "Oh, I know it's so bad, but I just don't know." And
Yeah.
sometimes sustainable fashion or sustainable brands can be so expensive. I don't have the money, and I'm like, "You need to
Yeah.
relax. Let's
Yeah.
let's take it back."
Yes.
So yeah, that's hopefully this will
Simplify.
help them out.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all about
Yes.
simplifying
So,
and
yeah.
trying to realize that just like any problem we have, when you start taking in that information, it seems so large and overwhelming at first. So I think, and just realizing that, it's not going to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect along finding the sustainable journey. I think sustainable fashion in general is evolving. There's no like one size fits all. So don't be overwhelmed. Just start small. Small differences make a difference. So
Yes, yes, definitely. Definitely. And so can we talk about why what's the difference between fast fashion and sustainable fashion?
yes. So I'll just start by saying in general, the fashion industry overall is harmful for the planet. But I think fast fashion takes it a bit further. For them, it's more about just more is more. So they're looking to produce items as quickly, as possible to keep up with the trends. And
Mhm.
often this is not at the environment's benefit. So you're talking about textile waste, excess water pollution. A lot of the garments are like plastic derived fabrics. So from, concept all the way down to washing it. I mean, we're talking about like breaking down into millions and millions of microplastics that are ending up in our streams. Um, and on top of that, we're talking about, the harmful impact it has on the people who are producing the garments. So, women, children, men, we're talking about unfair living wages to be able to offset being able to offer it at such a cheap price. And it's just, all around just not healthy. So, it's just a thirsty business. More is
Right.
more. Only
Yeah.
goal in mind is to make money, and
Money.
they don't care who they hurt along the way or how they do it.
That's incredible. Yeah, I cannot understand how they can be just like so greedy
Yeah.
to not care about all the mess that they're leaving behind.
Yeah.
And I mean, before I really knew about the impact of fast fashion, you would go to the store and I mean, you know which stores we're talking about.
Yeah.
Every week they would have different clothes and I'm like, oh my
Coming
God,
up.
this is never gonna
Yeah.
end. I mean, you just cannot catch up with everything that they have because it's like, oh, they have new things. I need to go
Yeah.
get them. I need to go get
And
them.
it's
And
always
it's just
wanting
like, I'm,
more. Yeah. And it's being
yes,
offered at such a low price that, it
yes,
almost makes sense, as a customer who doesn't really know the impacts behind the scenes, to them, they're like, oh
yes,
my God, this shirt's only $2. This shirt's only $5. Like, of course I need it in 15 colors or,
right,
whatever.
yes,
It's not really keeping anything else in mind other than just keeping up with the trends. You know, Fashion Week happens, and all of those companies now are looking to those runway shows, and they are banging
Right.
out these products, you know, as quickly as possible to be able to have them hit the stores before, you know, at a very low cost. So everything is done really fast. And then sustainable fashion is just,
Oh, are we getting disconnected again?
it usually takes in consideration is, you know, the effect of people, the effect of, you know, the planet, and also the treatment of animals, which for me as a vegan, that's something that I also pay attention to closely. And then, you know, they're not necessarily producing garments based on trends. They're producing product that is meant to be long lasting. So, you know, in the end, it may cost you a little bit more if we're talking about sustainable, like brand new products. It may cost you a little bit more, but it's something that you're going to have a lot longer than something, say, for, you know, from Forever 21 or H&M or Zara. It's something that is going to last you longer because the quality is better. So it takes a little bit more time and maybe a little bit more money, but it's worth it.
Yes, yes, definitely. And what I've seen is also like the quality's better.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of like a timeless design. So you can, you really don't feel like, oh, you're wearing something that,
Absolutely.
oh my God, looks like so last season and you're looking out of place. So I think they're thinking of that, because I feel like before, I would say like 15, 20 years ago, sustainable fashion was very like hippie-like.
Yeah.
And you couldn't find anything that looked really like chic or trendy, or well, not trendy, but
like current,
modern,
something that looked,
something
modern,
right,
like silhouette.
right.
Everything was a little bit more, you know, maybe a little bit more oversized, which isn't really everybody's, you know, cup of tea. So
right, cup of tea.
I think now it's evolved into, you know, brands that are putting merchandise out there that actually a lot, like it's to a much larger audience.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And so, what tips do you give your clients of what aspects they need to consider when they're purchasing clothes nowadays?
So first thing I would say is think about what you already have. I think before we talk about purchasing new, I think that we need to work with what we have. I think, you know, sometimes when people get started on this sustainable journey, they think they need to like toss everything they have and kind of start from scratch. But the reality is the most sustainable option is the option that's already in your closet. So figure out what you have, and, you know, if you plan on wearing it, if there's a way to rework it, if a garment doesn't fit you anymore, let's try to see if we can tailor it, or, you know, do what we can to, you know, to keep that garment. The resources have already been put into those clothes, so let's try to make them work. And I think just in general, knowing what you have helps you know what you need if you are somebody who's in the market to shop for something new. So my first tip is obviously always start with what you have, and then you can shop for what you need. And as far as shopping like sustainable, I mean, we're talking about like new brands in addition to like pre-loved, because pre-loved is a sustainable option. So I would say if we're going the new route, you know, I like to use the Good On You app and just kind of see what brands, like before I purchase something, go in there and see, you know, where they kind of rate on the scale. So they take into consideration like how, you know, people who are making the product are being treated, how its impact on the environment, and then its impact towards like animals. So my biggest thing when shopping new is just do your research. You know, if you need basics, if you need dresses, if you need, you know, jeans, just research the brand before investing your money. Also, make sure it's something that you're going to wear a lot. You know, the going like wear is like at least 30 times. And I think that that's more than appropriate if we're shopping for sort of these timeless pieces. So just kind of knowing what you have, researching before you buy, and making sure that, you know, what you are buying is something that you're going to wear over and over again. And then just asking yourself, is this something you need, or is this something you want? Because I think that that's a big difference. You know, if you keep going into your closet for a specific item and it's constantly not there, you're going to, you know, then it's probably something worth investing in. If it's something that you're just buying to wear with like this one outfit, you can probably go without it, or maybe choose the secondhand route, because you know that it's something that you maybe will not, you know, invest that much time into wearing. And I think it kind of offsets, you know, the strain and the resources on the planet. And then as far as like shopping sustainable secondhand, I still think that you should focus on items that you definitely need. I mean, I think shopping pre-loved or thrifting or vintage can definitely fall into the same pattern of like, I want this, I need this, I need this, I need this. So I think, you know, you kind of want to go into it with that same mindset of, you know, do I need this? Is this something I'm going to wear over and over again? Kind of, why am I buying it? Do I think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of this? And, you know, and then go from there.
You know, yeah, those are all great points. And I feel like I kind of fell into those without really thinking about it. But I thought at some point I started like, okay, I have so many clothes. Like, what am I even doing? Like, and I use maybe 20% of my closet. Like, how is this happening? I don't know. And so what I started doing is like, okay, I'm not going to spend any money because I have plenty of clothes. Like, clearly these could last me for years. So what I did is actually I went to Pinterest and I started looking for outfit ideas with the clothes that I already have. And I'm like, oh, wait, I have, it's such like an inspiration. And I'm like, oh, I'm thinking of different outfits that I would never come up with myself. So that's something that helped me put those clothes to good use instead of just like sitting in my closet for years and years. And so that really helped me also to find my style. Which before was very much influenced by the mannequins and the stores. And I'm like, oh, I like that. And I like that. And then I put it in myself. And I'm like, this is not me. Like, what am I doing? So that really helped me. So I think that's, something that's very useful. And again, I didn't even think about this. Like, once it started happening, I'm like, okay, I think I'm not very much into this like purple color. I'm gonna stop buying purple things. Like, this is not my color. And so that's how I really found out like how I felt more confident and what the things again that you said, like that you really use. Because I had so much stuff that I was like almost very like going out clothes. And I'm like, I don't even like to go out that much. Like, what am I doing? So,
it's almost like that, you know, like when your house is like cluttered and you can't like think, you know, I do feel like when you have items in your closet that you don't really wear, or you have too much of something, it really takes away from you being able to narrow down what it is that you're wearing more frequently. And, you know, it kind of does the same thing. Like, it clutters you and you're like, oh, I have nothing to wear, but it's just sort of stripping back to what you are wearing and then being able to build from there. And I used to do this actually in 2020 with a girlfriend of mine, and I've gotten so many requests, but it just speaks to your point about like, you know, finding new ways to wear like stuff in your closet. Like, I used to do this Instagram live with one of my friends, Keisha, and it was all about like maximizing your closet. And it was like taking these special occasion items that you've already purchased, you know, that you're probably only wearing to like a wedding and maybe one other cocktail event, like finding new and like fun reinventive ways to like restyle them and rewear them. And I've had so many requests to bring it back. So I definitely think I'm going to, but especially like with the comment you just made, like, I do think that there are so many people that have, you know, pieces in their closet. They're like, okay, I'm probably never going to wear this again, but giving them just a creative way to like think outside of their normal, you know, everyday outfits and thinking outside of the box on how to wear it. Like, I think it'll be so helpful to people. I know it's always helpful to me. Like, I love a good like special occasion dress with a pair of sneakers, like just to go like do something. So, you know, I think having that option is always great.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, sometimes I feel like you want to go bold, but you really don't know how to approach it. So I feel like that's something that I really think of when I have like all those like special occasion dresses and stuff. I'm like, I could totally wear this to go to a dinner at, you know, like a pizzeria or something, like super casual. But I'm like,
there's no such thing.
I don't feel like I'm right. Yeah, that's true. I feel like for me, for example, I struggle with confidence in certain pieces of clothing. So I feel like that series that you did, I'm like, yeah, I can
Yeah.
do that. So it's definitely something that
Aware
we need to learn to do. And it's just, yes. Yeah. And so I feel like that would be a really good series to bring back because that really helped. I feel
Yeah,
like
I definitely am going to
it's
bring it
giving
back
us
this
new
year
ideas.
for sure. Yeah. Stay tuned. It'll be
Okay,
on my,
that's cool.
that will be on
Yes.
my personal page, the Claudia is the illest, but I'm definitely bringing it back.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. And so now we touched a little bit on pre-loved
Yes.
clothes. But why is it so important for the environment to get into the pre-loved section of fashion?
So I think, me personally, I prefer pre-loved instead of buying like new sustainable brands. I think the importance for me is that the resources have already been spent on that particular garment. The water or the textile, like dyes and all that stuff, like that's already been, whatever impact that garment has had, it's already been made on the environment. So you're just saving it from that additional impact, and that's ending up in a landfill, and sort of giving it new life again. And I think pre-loved often, depending on where you're shopping, is also the more affordable route. So I think, with fast fashion, I think a lot of people look at it as well as it's like affordable. It's definitely enticing to be able to buy something at, $5, $7, $10. But the truth is you can go to a secondhand store and find those same price points, if not cheaper. So I think, price wise and affordability, it's also a great route to go. There's so many different options, from garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores, church sales. Like there's so many different ways to find pre-loved clothing, that I think it's just, the resources have already been spent and the garment is here. It's not going anywhere. It's just a matter of whether you want to give it new life again or, have it end up in a landfill.
Right. Yeah, I think that's something that's so important. And I feel like the generations, I think from us going to the younger ones, are very much into going the vintage pre-loved route, which I really like.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I felt like for a second,
like garments that are just as stylish, I think for such a long time, there was such a bad stigma. I mean, even when I was in high school wearing like pre-loved clothing, like I remember not wanting to tell my friends that something was secondhand or something was this, because there was very much this like stigma and this association of it being like, you can't afford this, so, but I think I love that, in the last few years that pre-loved and vintage have had such a resurgence, because I think there should never there should never be this like stigma. Like there's so many clothes out there. There's so many garments just heading towards the landfill that I think it just takes a little bit of time, you know what I mean, to really go thrifting and like find those pieces. But I think you're able to find pieces that are like just as cool, if not cooler, than what you're finding in like retail stores.
Yes, I definitely agree. I feel like when you do the thrifting, you go that route or the pre-loved vintage way, it's like you find treasures. It's just like nobody else is gonna have them, or not a lot of people will have them. So it's something that you'll have and you'll feel special with it. So I feel that's really important.
And I remember too, like working in the fashion industry, I was like trying to keep up with all these girls in New York and like trying to buy designer stuff. And honestly, I just couldn't. Like there was just so much to keep up with. And I remember, I like wearing a lot of my like thrifted, like vintage pieces that I got. And those were the ones that I ended up getting the most compliments on. And that was probably when it really like set into me that I was like, you know what? I don't even care. Like, I'm just going to tell people that I got it secondhand, or I'm just going to tell people, and this was like early, like, like maybe early mid 2000s, like, it's not like cooler that you're going to, Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom or wherever to spend all this money on stuff up front. Like, if I found this jacket for $2, like, I'm going to tell you I found it for $2 because you're already like, you know, I'm getting compliments on this stuff. And those were the pieces that I was getting more compliments on than the stuff that I was buying brand new because they were gems. They were one of a kind pieces.
Yes. Yeah, and I feel like that says a lot. You working in the fashion industry, that people were complimenting you on those. It's like, get a hint, girls.
I know. You're like, meanwhile, I got this for like $5 or whatever, like $2.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to the wrong store. Yeah. So now, so I don't keep much of your time. Can you give us like one last answer to my question?
Sure.
What are the best tips to shopping vintage or pre-loved? What is it like?
So I would say, you know, same thing with shopping sustainably. Like, figure out what you have, figure out what you need. I think there's so many ways to shop pre-loved, vintage, secondhand. You know, whether you're the type of person to go into stores, definitely thrift stores. You know, try to find some resale shops that benefit towards like other charities. There's a lot here in Arizona who, you know, donate back to local charities, whether it's women's shelters or animal shelters. You know, obviously online, the Real ThreadUp. There's so many online, you know, secondhand shops as well. So I think just finding what you're comfortable with. And then as far as like garment selection, you know, paying attention to the fabrics. You know, I always like to look at the labels and see what a specific garment is made from. Obviously, when you're thrifting or when you're vintage shopping, you go towards what you like, but I think also paying attention to what kind of fabric it is. You know, seeing if it's something that's going to hold up, seeing if it's something that, you know, if you feel like is durable. And then I always like to check for any imperfections. So any like perhaps like repairs that might need to be made. You know, figuring out how it's going to need to be washed, if you're going to need to take it to the dry cleaner, or if it's something you can hand wash at home. I think that those are great tips. And then I think also too, just get out of your head, you know, like try not to overthink about it and think that there has to be this right way to do something. Like, you know, ultimately, if you're doing this for the first time, you want to stay true to what your style is, you know, your own personal style. So you want to stay in that avenue. Otherwise, you're going to end up buying stuff that you don't need for the sake of it being pre-loved or vintage or whatever. So, you know, stick to what you know, stick to, you know, what you feel comfortable with and what you know you're going to wear, not what everybody's telling you, you know, but just stay true to what you know, and who you are and what your style is. Because ultimately it's your closet, you know, you're going to be the one that's going to wear it. You're going to be the one that like has to style it and put it together. So try not to overthink it and feel like there's this right or wrong way that you have to do it, you know? And then I think, let's see, any other tips? And then I think have fun, you know, have fun with it. Like, I think that like thrifting is so fun. It's like digging for buried treasure, and like even shopping at a vintage store. Like I just got this at Antique Sugar the other day. Like there's just so many inspirational pieces out there, you know, that like can help you think of your wardrobe in ways that you never thought of before. So just have fun with it. Try not to like, you know, be too nervous or be too serious. And if you're not used to vintage or secondhand clothing, start small, you know, maybe start with accessories, or start with, you know, a jacket where you can wear a shirt underneath. And maybe that, you know, like if it's somebody who is hesitant about secondhand, because there are, you know, people who do have stigmas against secondhand clothing. So start small, you know, maybe buy a jacket and then, you know, keep going back and trying new pieces until you feel comfortable, kind of going 100%.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I feel like, again, that's how I started too. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't know about pre-loved, and then I saw something. I think I was looking for a dress. I saw it online at the store. It was super expensive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna look for it, because I was selling my own stuff on Poshmark. And I'm like, you know, I'm gonna look over there. I found it for like, it wasn't even like a quarter of the price, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting it. I have to. So that's really how I started, and I got it. It was in perfect conditions, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
So really, that's what helped me push. That's kind of what pushed me. Like,
gave you the push.
Girl, it's fine. And
I mean,
you'll find stuff that is not in great condition, and you can always like, you know what, this is not for me, or this shouldn't be So that's fine.
And
but
I can't
it's
tell you
like
how many times, like you, like I've shopped, you know, whether it's at like a secondhand store or shopped on Poshmark for something that, you know, I've seen in the stores and I'm like, okay, I really like this, but I don't want to purchase it, you know, brand new. Let me see if, you know, there's one on Poshmark or there's one on Depop or eBay or wherever.
yes,
And I end up
yes,
finding it. And again, it's like for a quarter of the price. And sometimes they still have the retail tags on it, especially going thrifting. Like I can't tell you how many times I've purchased things with, you know, the retail price, like the retail tag still on them.
oh
And
my
I think
God.
also people should just think about it like this. Like I worked in the fashion industry. I can't tell you how many people will try on your brand new garments before it actually goes in your closet. So, you know, think about that a little bit too. I know that there's this stigma around, you know, wearing something that maybe somebody else has already worn and, you know, you're a little bit worried about the cleanliness of it. But, you know, we have fashion models who try it on for fit testing, you know, models who are trying it on at the trade shows, models who are trying it
That's
on
true.
during buying appointments, you know, people who are trying it on in the retail stores, you know, not just one person, maybe 10 to 15 before that new garment is actually made its way into your closet. So even though you don't see it and know it, there are people who are trying on, you know, your brand new clothes. So it's just something to consider. You know, in general, you have to wash things before you get them anyway. So, you know, just
Right.
try to
Yeah.
think of that, you know, before you kind of maybe say no to like pre-loved or secondhand, because there are a lot of hands that are touching your garment before it makes its way into your closet.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's very true. And yeah, I mean, again, it's just like I'm never coming back to just buying at a mall. Like
Yeah.
I go and I'm like, this is boring. I kind of feel like I
Yeah.
know like my own style now. I know what I need. You don't need to tell me what to do. But I feel like you feel better because you know that it's like the little things you're with your dollars, you're voting what you want to do with the things. And
Yes.
it's if you're buying pre-loved, if you're buying vintage, that's something you're telling to the world like, hey, I
I'm
care
not
about the
yeah.
yeah, I'm putting thought behind my dollars and I don't want to spend it in some rinky dink top that I'm gonna wash one time. It's gonna have holes in it, it's gonna
Yeah.
be poor
Or
quality, it's gonna be so damaging. Yeah, yeah, so damaging for the environment, for the people that make it. It's just like I don't want that. So
yeah.
I feel like that little part of it makes you feel good too.
And I do think
So
too, like something to consider is that, you know, like I remember, you know, when I started to go vegan a couple of years ago, like so many people would say, like, what difference does it make? There's always still going to be people who are, you know, eating dairy and eating meat and that kind of stuff. Like, do you really think that you're like you are alone or making a difference? And, you know, that was like several years ago. And I think about like where, you know, where it is now. And you have all of these companies who are putting out
yes,
vegan products and plant-based products. And, you know, so I think that like voting with your dollar is so important. And you may not think
yes,
that your difference is really like that you are making that much of a difference as like one person, or, you know, if it's just you and a group of friends. But the reality is that there are so many brands. I mean, if you look at H&M, if you look at ASOS, if you look at Zara, like they're all starting to see the impact of, you know, these
yes,
sustainable fashion conversations and these brands. And while they're, you know, starting to pay attention to it, obviously they're not there yet, but I do think that they're threatened by it, and they see that this is a conversation that's not going away. And if you continue to make
exactly.
those choices with your dollar, in 5 years, in 10 years, like this is going to be, you know,
Yeah,
it's going to be super impactful. So while it may feel like, you know, well, if I'm just buying, you know, maybe one used garment versus, you know, however many at the start of the season, like a small difference makes a difference. And together, if everyone
yes,
makes those small differences, it really does make a huge impact.
yes, yes, I agree, and I agree with what you said before. Um, yeah, I mean, people would tell us that we were like, oh, what are you doing that for? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people like putting trash out there. They don't care about the environment, and I'm like, that's fine. I care.
Yeah.
I'll feel better about myself that I'm doing something. And now
Yeah.
I can see like tons of people that are really putting their effort into helping the environment, and I'm like, oh, I feel good now. I wish I could see that
You're like, oh,
person
now
and
it's
tell them
cool.
like,
So now you want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's fine. It's fine. We'll make it cool if that works, right?
It doesn't matter if you're late to the party as long as you come.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But thank you so much for this conversation. I really liked it, and I mean, I don't think of myself like as a guru of any of this, but I just love fashion so much, and I love doing. Sorry, there was like a piston here flying. But I just love talking about this so much because of the impact to the environment, and the impact it has on people. So I really liked this conversation. I feel like, again, as we said, now the younger generations are thinking that thrifting and vintage shopping is cool. So I love that. I feel like that's a little bit thanks to us that we're pushing kind of towards that direction. And so, yeah, and I feel like, I mean, you're doing great with your vintage store, and I love your style. I love the boldness, and it feels like it's so Claudia. Like, I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like certain styles for certain people, and I feel like it fits you so well. And I'm like, I see you around, I'm like, this girl can do anything that she wants. She can wear whatever she wants, and I feel like I could too. But
you can.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like there's like a personality. I feel.
Yeah.
It's like the way you dress, and I love the way you dress, and I feel like it fits your personality so well. And and I always love watching your stories and your outfits, because I'm like, how does she come up with this? I don't have like this much like bandwidth to think about my outfits.
You do.
So
I will say a lot of it is definitely just like confidence, and I think also too, like, I've never really cared to like have, you know, people give me like those looks, or like, oh, she's wearing this, or she's like, because for me, it's like when I wake up, it's like my body's a canvas. Like, I get to paint every day. You know what I mean? I'm going to have fun with it. Like, some days I might keep it super basic. And then some days it's like, I'm just going to be over the top, sequin, blingy, like, and just, I think it just takes, again, like, just feeling confident and just having fun. You know what I mean? Like, life is short. Wear the clothes, wear all the clothes, have fun with it. Who cares if people give you looks or whatever? Like, that's
so
them.
Yes, that's true. I agree. I need to be more fun with my outfits too.
Thanks, Danielle. That's so sweet. You're so sweet. Thank you.
Yes, she is. Yeah. Well, Claudia, thank you so much for being here on this IG Live. Yeah, to teach us all about sustainable fashion, and tell us about your vintage store.
So anybody that does want to shop vintage, I'm actually in the process of uploading some new vintage this week. But the website is shopglitterandstitchesvintage.com. It's spelled all out. And you can go ahead and follow me on Glitter and Stitches Vintage on Instagram as well. Most of the links go directly to my shop. I do have my website link on there as well. And hopefully you guys, will see stuff you like. But in general, like, feel free to send questions, or, if you have, anything else you want to know about vintage or pre-loved clothing, like, my DMs are open. So feel free. I love the conversation. I love the questions. And, truthfully, it's something that I'm super passionate about. So I'm more than happy to answer whatever you guys need.
Yay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Claudia. And we're going to save this conversation on our videos here on Instagram, but it's also going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and I'll let you know if you want to share with your audience too.
Perfect. Yes.
But yeah, because we love to save these conversations for people to reference later on.
Of course.
In case we didn't have time for the IG Live. So thank you so much, Claudia. It was so nice to see you, and hopefully we'll see each other live soon. Yes, I'm sure everyone did.
All right. Bye, guys.
Sounds good. Bye. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.